I remember my dad being around a lot. I remember memories from Christmas and birthdays and, you know, going places with him being at home. And I remember my mum there, I remember my dad there. I remember just good times, you know, we were young, really young, yeah. And I have a memory of, said I didn't know at the time, but the memory of things not being right was when I came home. I think I came home from, it was either, I think it might have been like my first year at school, so maybe I was 5 or 6 or something. And I came in and my dad was there and he said, oh, do you want to, me and you will go and live away from here, we'll live together. And do you want to come with me and you? And I remember saying, yeah, I want to come and live with you, yeah, let's go. Then I remember my mum jumping out, and I say jumping out because that's what it felt like. All of a sudden my mum was there and I was like, oh. And then she said, oh, but don't you want to stay and live with me? And I looked at my mum and she's like, you know, you want to live with mummy, don't you? And I remember saying, yeah, I want to live with you. And then my dad's like, but I thought you wanted to live with me. And I remember that memory, you know, and it's like, now I said as an adult looking back, you're like, but I still remember the feeling of, I wanted both of them. There wasn't either of them either I wanted more. You know, I did want to live with my dad, I did want to live with my mum. But I remember that feeling of, I'd done something wrong. I'd upset them. I knew I'd upset both of them. But I had both of them in front of me, so there was nothing that I could do to change that. You know, I'd see my dad from time to time, and I seen him less frequently. I remember him being around less, and it got to the point of a part where I remember seeing my mum upset. We had come home from school, junior school, and we came back, and I remember getting to the door of the house, and I could hear something, but I wasn't sure what it was that I could hear. But it was someone that was upset, and then I realised it was my mum. And I remember asking where my dad was, and my mum just got really upset, and basically screamed at us to get to our rooms. That my dad wasn't here. He wasn't going to be here. He wasn't ever going to be here. Sort of barricade ourselves in the room, crying, and I just remember from then that obviously my dad wasn't around, you know, at all, and I just remember as a kid that from that point of, there'd been so many times where it'd be Christmas or a birthday and you'd be thinking, oh, is a card going to come or is a present going to come? Is he going to turn up? And, you know, so many times he didn't. As a child, you just want both your parents in your life. And when you've got one parent saying things about the other parent, which in my case, in my experience, made me believe the things that were being said about my dad. You know, just talking about my dad in that he's not a good man, that he doesn't want you, that she's been left to look after, you know, his kids, and he's off running, you know, scot-free. And as a child, I said, I believed these things, and I believed that my dad wasn't someone that I wanted in my life. It wasn't someone that was a good person, and you know, it also at the time I didn't understand it, but now again looking back as an adult, realised that was like a lot of where my issues about identity and self-worth came from. So then growing up, I got to the age of 13, and my dad turned up at the house. But I was already at that point so alienated, so angry, that I was, so angry with him that I shouted at him, swore at him, and told him to go away. We don't need you. So it wasn't until I was, and he left, and it wasn't until I was 17, I went to try and find him. I think there's like an innate desire there was an innate desire in me as a young man to know my dad and to know who he was. There's so many questions that I wanted answers to, and even to this day there's questions that I would like answers to, but not realising at that age, those questions I couldn't ask then, I probably wouldn't ask now, and those answers would never be given. The next 10 years I ended up living with him on 2 different occasions for a period of time each time. We get on so well when we're together, yet even as an adult, I'm still, because there's no answers, and it's why I'm so aware of how I am with my own son. There's no answers to what happened. That anger and frustration is still, although I've learned to live with it, is still there. That anger and frustration as a young boy is what led me to make the wrong decisions growing up and have no clear direction about where I was going in life. It's sad because we get on so well. We'll sit there and we'll laugh at the same things. We'll watch TV and we'll talk about what's going on and find the same things interesting. Yet there's this divide because of the alienation and because of the lack of relationship we had as a growing up. It's not been until recently that I've even realised that I was an alienated child. Although I was academically smart, did well in school, what wasn't picked up was the anger that was inside of me. And there was about 5 or 6 occasions between the ages of 8 to 14, 15, where these violent outbursts come out. I remember a boy wouldn't let us play with his football when we was at school and we was 8, and so I took his football off him and punched him in his eye and gave him a big black eye. And there were other occasions like that where I inflicted violence on kids, which was, now looking back, it was as a reaction to the abuse that I had suffered at home and the anger that I had inside of me from the frustrations of not having both my parents in my life, and having this frustration, anger turned against my dad. About 14 is when it come to a real head, and where I had been under the radar of anyone noticing what was going on with me. At 14 into 15, 16, I started to rebel, and I started to smoke weed. From the age of 12, 13, I was smoking weed. And by the ages of 15, 16, I was involved in criminality, regularly getting into fights. 17, 18, drinking and fighting a lot. But at the same time, I was still going to school. So I still took my A-levels. I still went to university. So again, like on one path, it's like I still am able to succeed academically. But on the other, because there's so much dysfunction psychologically within myself, I wasn't able to function as a functioning adult. Again, I carried on with my education. I got my degree, but I still was out drinking and getting into fights, and was arrested for various different things along that path, of fighting, or public disorder, or criminal damage. And it wasn't until I said I was 25 that I was sent to prison. I was sentenced to 3 years for intent to supply cannabis, so a lot of cannabis. So I served just under 1.5 years, but it was the first time that, as an adult, that I was I had time to stop and think and process what had happened in the 18 years or so before I ended up there. I'm like, you know, first day I got there, I was like, I'm a graduate. I've got a full, you know, education. I was on a graduate training scheme a few months ago. How am I here? And it was only at that time I started to piece the pieces together. And it was a really good opportunity for me to make decisions as an adult about what it was that I wanted to do in life, as opposed to me reacting to what had happened to me in my younger life. So then I made decisions as an adult for when I was released, that I made a list of things that I wanted, and they were, I wanted to get married, I wanted children, I wanted good friends, I wanted to help people, I wanted to, you know, do good things for people and support others. And then the 10 years since I've left prison, that's exactly what I've done. But it still took me a whole load of work psychologically to be able to process what happened. I spent 4 years in therapy, private therapy, where I've actively gone out to try to recognizing something's not right. And that personal work that I've done has enabled me to be a good father, husband. I built a business, and I've given back as much as I can. And I'm at a point where I can function, but still the scars of my childhood, the scars of being an alienated child, still live with me today. My relationship with my mother is difficult. I love my mum. She raised us the best she could. She gave us everything she could. However, as a parent of 3 sons now, I would never ever think about putting such emotional, psychological pressure on one of my children. Yeah, it's been difficult. I said, since I went to prison, it's been difficult because I've had time to think about what happened. And it's not about blame. It's not about blame, but it's trying to move on and trying to function in society. It's just tough carrying around the baggage of my childhood.